self-scan, head to toe. Look for the tension. So on your way down, as you're scanning yourself, a lot of you guys will probably have some up here or in your neck from sleeping weird. Anyway, you know the routine. If you find tension, do a sharp inhale through the nose, visualize grabbing it, and then when you exhale, visualize blowing it out of there. It actually has a physiological effect. Okay, good. Now, keep everything super duper relaxed as you can almost without falling down, all right? Tighten up your fists, super tight. But consciously work on keeping the forearms completely relaxed, even though you're tightening up the fists. Get them as tight as you can, still with relaxed forearms and relaxed upper arms. Squeeze it tighter. Go back, disengage forearms if they start to tighten up. Okay, now release them. Now, consciously tighten the forearms without getting up into the biceps and triceps and shoulders or fists. It won't be as dramatic, of course, because they don't work that way. Biceps and triceps together without the shoulders, without the forearms. Release. Okay, isolate the shoulders. Tighten them up best you can. Try not to get the traps in. Sometimes when you tighten shoulders, you'll notice that once your lats want to come into it too. Try to keep them out of there. Release that. Now try to get up here in the traps and isolate them. Go down and get up in here in your lats. Release that. Okay, now lower back. Try to do quads without hamstrings. Sometimes if you just change the angle of your legs a little bit, you can get the quads to engage and keep the hams pretty relaxed. Okay, let go of that. Now try to engage those hamstrings back there and leave the quads relaxed. A lot of times I've noticed when you try to tighten your calves, it'll trigger your quads. So try to tighten, there we go. Try to tighten those calves and keep the quads or anything else out of it. This is a whole theme right in the art, because the idea is to be able to control that tension, because anytime something tenses up, it's an energy vampire. And that's why you're trying to get to where you control your body, it doesn't control you, is the idea to a large degree, right? Okay, now, rub your hands, get them warm. This is one of the systemic quick warm-up tricks, because I'm doing that because we got started late again. A little bit. Okay, now you are going to warm your body up the systemic quick way, which is friction, right? So it's like you're taking a bath or a shower with no soap or water. All this friction in the skin makes blood move and warms all the muscles. Picture your rubber ducky and your shower cap on. Right? That neck. Down here. Go up one arm. Down arm. Another one. Now, you know, for back here, you do stuff like, especially around your kidneys, get some sort of, you can go crosswise like this. Then you can do this kind of deal, rub them up like you're working in the shower, and you go on this side. You just get as much of it as you can. Okay, then hit the quads. And hamstrings. Nice. Get some good friction. Then come down those calves. Front and back. Turn 45 degrees left. Work on that plane, because that engages the muscles different. So then you come down. And go back. Okay, square it off. 45 right. Down. Slow back. Now, very gently, you can roll it. Now, you might, a lot of us when we sleep, right, stuff gets really tight up in here. So when you're rolling it, just do the old breath grab and pull that tension out wherever you feel it. Good. Now roll those shoulders. Really good range of motion here. Then back. Butter churn real quick. Wrists. Elbows. Forward. While you're forward and turning, take those thumbs and press them into those big muscles in your lower back. A lot of times that's really stiff in the morning too, right? And as you roll, then when you come back, release the massage. But when you come back forward again, start hitting the big muscles back there with your thumbs. Then when you come back around again, release, come back forward. As soon as you come forward, start hitting them again. Wherever it feels like you need it, you come back around. Now reverse the direction, you come forward, hit those muscles. When you go back, release, come forward, hit them again. Okay, good. Now, slight back bend. Move forward. Come down slow. Bend your knees a little. Put your palms toward the floor. Now bring your palms to your foot and bring it right up your front of your legs. Right back into that again. A little further back. Now come forward again. Bring them up the legs again. Okay, good. Right hand comes over here. Turn to the left. Square off. Left arm comes over. Go to your right. Okay, good. Palms right here. And raise them a little higher. Okay, hands on the booty. Kick your booty hands with your heels. Then out here real quick. Those knees warmed up a little bit. And then inside. There's a few ways to do this. We're going to experiment a little bit. So, straighten them out. They got to touch each other. Then bend them just a little bit. There's a big difference because what happens if you keep them really stiff and straight and you jab and you hit the forehead and they're locked out like this and there's no bend in them, there's a better chance that I've done it before, that you kind of, what they used to call it when you kind of semi-sprain your finger? There was a term for that. Huh? Well, no, I forgot what anyway. So yeah, you keep a little bit of bend in there, but then you make it, at the moment you're going to hit something, they're tense. Just like we'll keep this all loose, but we'll keep the fist really tense to punch, the sistema punching. You know, it's the same kind of idea with this knife hand. So, whoop, you got that, and you lock it in tight. Then the thumb, there's a couple of styles. Some people will bend it here, and they like to bring it in and kind of hide it like that. Other people like to lay it out, kind of out here on top, if you can see that. So this, some folks like this. There's different styles. So you'll just play with it throughout the day as you do it. You change the silhouette of the hand, right? So it gets a little easier, yeah, to get precision strikes on certain points just because you've changed the profile from this to this. You can focus the blows, you know, like on the brachial plexus, that's a classic shot. If you were doing a flat plane, horizontal plane strike, if you had to chop somebody in the neck, it fits right up in there a lot easier. I mean, a fist doesn't. It's awkward. Plus, you know, when you make the striking surface a little smaller, it's easier to focus the blow. And there'll be a couple things to that as we're striking with it, we'll go through those. The other thing about it is that a natural hand position is like this. Your hands are more open. So, you know, if you've got a really tight fist, I mean, it's not a whole lot of time, but you still have to release to be able to grab, right? So another thing that has been talked about, go in this position, it's a natural position. You strike here, and if you want to turn it into a grab, you just go right to the grab. There's no release and then grab. So, yeah, we're talking hundreds and hundreds of seconds there, but I have heard this as another argument for it, all right? I've seen very few commando / military styles that don't use this a lot for hitting the brachial plexus in the neck, that's a knockout shot. See the old James Bond movies and the guy goes boom and the guy's knocked out. Well, I went through a pressure point training system that was part of what they used to teach at the police academy downtown, and that will knock you out. Now the problem with it is when it's focused, you know, a nice focused knife hand, you can hit with so much pressure, especially if you're really amped up and hitting hard, you can really screw up the guy's cervical vertebra back here, right? So what they did at the academy to have an option to get the knockout without as much chance of affecting the neck was to do what they would call a brachial thump instead of a chop. So you would come in even deeper and you would hit with the root of the forearm. And it works. We all knocked each other out without having to go to this, right? So there's that, just something to know. There's a way to mitigate the amount of force that you focus into that tiny area, right? So, but another place where people don't think about as much, and it's highly effective, is, so you're thinking these planes, you'll use that a lot. You'll use it on this plane too, this way, right? And one thing they don't think about is coming this direction. And the theory is that in the old Aikido Jiu-Jitsu days, you know, if empty hand fighting against a samurai sword, a lot of that developed the idea that here's the sword, right? You don't have the sword, so now your hand turns into kind of a sword. Just like a lot of time the Filipinos, if they don't have a knife, this becomes the knife. And a lot of the maneuvers are the same, except you're striking instead of actually cutting, right? So same idea, you can strike this way. And if you're being precise, this area here is hitting the nose and the rest is hitting the head. I'm telling you what, it's a pretty sharp shot. Because this is bad enough, but then you focus it all down to something really narrow, and then you're just putting that much more force right in there. Okay, so that's vertical shots this way, right? Turning this way. See, and a lot of times there'll be slight changes in the position of the hand, and you start feeling it instinctively when you start hitting stuff, which you will do today. So instead of keeping this angle like I would here, see how it'll protrude a little bit right here. And I'm going right on that jaw hinge. Pop that thing open. And I know exactly what happens when you do that. You've seen that. So see how I angled that a little bit to get it right on that hinge, right? So there's slight adjustments, and you'll learn to make them as you make contact, right? Because we're going to go through these. You'll do it on each other, lightly tapping, all right? So those are major shots there. This is real dangerous territory, this one, this inverted shot, throat shot. Now, if you're your controls there, you might be going just to get a guy to do that, right? But if you don't know what you're doing and you hit too hard, you get right on the windpipe. That's potentially fatal. You crush somebody's trachea. Boy, you better have a good sharp knife or something. You better have a ballpoint pen, something, a tube, and you better get it in there. You know, you don't want to crush somebody's trachea. I mean, this would have to be a life and death thing to warrant anything like that. But you got to be careful. Throat shots. One of the things I learned to do in sparring years ago, doing this kind of stuff, is I used to hit here sometime and just let it kind of skip, just to get enough of just to get that, you know, and it was another way to take out some of the force of the blow to make sure I don't hit them too hard. It was just something I did a long time ago, right? So those are major things as far as head goes. So we got the clavicle here. A lot of arts that use this shot like to, here again, angle it up a little bit so they focus right here, hit that clavicle. It doesn't take a whole lot to break it. You can do it if you good sharp blow. So what happens if you break that clavicle bone? Yep, it's just going to dangle. It has no support. That was another way to stop a guy, right? Non-fatal way to stop somebody. It's still kind of mean because you're busting the clavicle, but hey, you didn't kill him and you took that side out, and that pretty psychologically detrimental to yourself to go, oh, I can't use my arm, I want to keep fighting, you know, that kind of thing, right? So we've got those. So you'll because if you go this way, you'll realize, it's not so good. But when I do this, oh yeah, I can focus it now. See, because if my hand's too straight, a lot of the force is going up here and hitting him in the trap. It's great if I'm giving him a massage, but if I want to stop him, see how I'm focusing right on you. Yeah, I know he can feel it, right? So there's all that. We're going to start with that, and then I'm going to keep adding on as we go. We did this shot, all right? We did these jaw hinge shots. We did the brachial plexus, right? Okay? And we did more downward, trying to hit that clavicle. And it's tricky too, because when people, you know, you can't, unless you're walking around without a shirt, you know. But after a while, if you hit it enough, you'll get used to it. You know, you'll zone right in on where that thing is to hit it. Because it's like, wow, holy smokes.
Uneven.
Whoa, way uneven.
Yeah.
But it's just you, right? You never break it, did you?
No.
Okay. Yeah, man, this side is way, look at that. See how much higher it is?
The shoulder is up higher than the other.
Yeah, it is. That shoulder's higher, same. And it might be why. It actually might be because of how his clavicle is, because that thing just goes up at a sharp angle. It's interesting. See the difference? Yeah. Everybody's different, right? So,
Fix that for you right now.
so we did all those shots. Okay, now, I don't want to overly practice this, but I want you to get used to using this angle, because there's other things you can do with it too. But see how I'm staying underneath the larynx. I'm staying below the trachea a little bit. I'm using this as a little stun shot. But if this was total life and death survival, you know, so there's that. So actually then what we're going to do, after you do that, you'll have your buddy turn around. It's the same thing. This is a very dangerous place to chop somebody. It would have to be serious survival stuff. Right on that cervical vertebra, right. If you had a guy swinging on you up here and you step in here close, right up here, get up in the ribs. We're going to get to how you really generate power with this stuff, but I'm right up here in his ribs. Those are good shots. You might not think so, but boy, when you get hit there, it's like, ah. Well, the liver's right in here. Spleen's over here, liver's here. So now is when you start thinking like somebody who's using a knife or a really short sword, or like a Bowie knife, because those were meant to be used basically like a hacking short sword in combination with a pistol, actually. Crazy stuff. But so now you start thinking in those terms, right? So now it's not just for attacking body targets. So if his arms are out, which just represents him reaching for me or striking me or anything, you'll be able to see you can do this at all kinds of different ranges. Even in here tight, which would be more like boxer arms, would be in here really tight. if you're coming in, this works really great off the rocking A-frame entry, which we'll get into in a minute because we'll be entering that way. So this is your high cover coming in, this A-frame. So if your A-frame is like this, your fingertips are together. The idea here is you can do this to stop someone from coming up the middle, or you can go out to kind of block. It's a very simple defense method. A lot of people use this in different variations because it works well. When you see stuff that crosses arts, you know it must work. Otherwise, why do so many people use that? Because you don't have to be, you know, like a boxer and have to really be doing all this extra movement. You just come in like a battering ram. You can close it in tight, or you can angle it out a little bit. We're really doing it, so don't worry. But anyway, so coming in here, but even in here, if it's pretty tight and I come up the middle, hitting the forearm mound, hitting the bicep, hitting the forearm mound, hitting the bicep. It can even be right here, real snappy pop. You know, and we'll work that on the mitts so you understand how to get that force. Pop here and pop here. Obviously, you're right here to do these shots. See, this is just doing them in tight. So you're going to do them, right now you're going to do them hit here, hit here, hit here, hit here. Even cross arm, right? Hitting here, because it depends, you know, relationship. You might be over here and you got to go this direction. If you're inside, you'll just snap it this way. So we're hitting these, we're hitting here, and then obviously you're still right inside to do all this stuff. You're just doing it real tight. And I'm going to show you how to get snappy focus power for those shots, okay? What you'll do, and you're going to use this area as your target, right? Just like we do with punches a lot. But so if you just go like this, it's like, okay, yeah, that's okay. But think of this. What I'm going to have you do with your partner is you're going to, you know, cock it a little bit so that you get a smaller area that's making contact. You're going to put your hand about 2 inches up. Cock this up a little bit. Think of snapping it and focusing all the energy into that one little point that you're hitting. So don't hit them in the clavicle. Hit it below that, right? And just see how much goes in there? Doesn't seem, it's quite a bit considering you're just a couple inches away, and you just explode it in there and you snap it right in the spot. So then you have to think in your head, boy, if I do that right, it's only a few foot-pounds of force focus that it takes to snap this thing. The trick to getting this is you have to train this enough that you're accurate. This is about precision with these strikes to really affect stuff here, and it doesn't take a ton of power. A few foot-pounds of force will snap that thing like. And this is very concussive. Hitting someone. I've done that just in sparring with this, and it's like I've been hit with it, and it's like, whoa. That brain goes. So don't think it's not enough power. It's about the precision, right? Punch over here, and I chop this, right? And I chop here. Well, I'm already here, so then I go ahead and add the elbow. It just goes from one to the other because the ranges dictate that, right? You know. I'm out of range now, but as soon as I start coming in range, I get a little bit smaller. And here's I call it the A-frame. Here's my A-frame posture. I'm not leaning forward, I'm crouching down a little bit. And I'm coming in here. All it is this, you're just coming in here. And your footwork's the same, like anything else you do. It's just natural footwork, natural stance, no leaning, no, you know, kung fu monkey stuff or whatever. It's just more kind of natural, neutral stance, moving around, but you've got this. So as soon as I know I'm coming in the zone for those hands, because if he's a boxer and he starts jabbing, he starts running into bone. And that's one, if he's got gloves on, no big deal. But if he doesn't have gloves on, his knuckles are hitting that bone coming in, and I'm protecting my computer, right? If he throws a big hook and I'm coming in, see, if I lift it up a little bit, he'll run right into the elbow, which we've seen that when we do this with the elbows, right? The elbow's there, but even from right here, I can go, I won't do it, but I can go, and there's a limb shot. Charlie horse up that bicep, and then flow right into here, and then flow here. We'll get into flow with this later. You're not thinking about, okay, here's defense, now here's offense. It's all one continuum. It's the same idea. And most systems I've seen that use this, except for karate ones, but other more commando-like ones, a lot of times they'll flow like that. The chop, there's not a distinguishing difference between the chop as a deflection or a block and the chop as a strike. It's all one. Because it's kind of like the Filipino knife mentality that you're simply cutting anything in front of you. Same with this. You're cutting, or you want to say smashing everything, no matter what it is. The deflection is actually a strike into a strike. It's all striking, really. He'll pop, like say he does boxer style. He'll do a jab and a straight. See, I'm making him eat these bones. I'm trying to make him run in the bone as much as I can. You got to really, see how, you got to keep this pretty narrow, because if it's even just, do this jab again. See, it can get through there. So you got to be careful with that. You got to be able to close this thing up and make this guy hit bone. He throws that right, I just got to shift a little bit. See, and either that happens and it's coming off this way, or I shift slightly here and it's going to miss. If I raise here, he's going to run into elbow. So that's what we're playing with, is all those dynamics now, is not letting the jab sneaky peek through, not letting the straight hand sneaky peek through. See what happens too, a lot of times that's exactly what happens. It'll hit, because this is a sharp bone, and a lot of times it'll do what it just did, and it'll slide out. Well, when it slides out, you're just here. See, this is very efficient, it's very in-tight stuff. If this gets injured, the computer in there gets injured, I'm useless, I can't do anything, right? This is about protecting that computer. We'll talk about in a minute about down here, but most people are headhunting. They're trying to knock you out, because if you're out, you can't do anything, right? They're trying to hurt your brain. It's an instinctive thing that's where a lot of people are going to go. More sophisticated people will go to the body too, but that's not necessarily a problem either. This is just the simplest thing. Keep the headhunters from getting your computer, all right? So that's that. Most of you guys, from when we've done the elbow stuff, have done the one where you slip the elbow and you come right in, right? When you come in like a battering ram and you put 2 elbows in there with your body weight, you tell them, what's that feel like?
Oh yeah.
It's overwhelming, right? Because this is back to the thing that's not intuitive. It's not intuitive to go in. We've done this with the baseball bats. Ugh, nobody wants to go in. But then you see what happens when you don't. You back up, and then the guy overtakes you in the reaction time gap, and you end up eating that baseball bat. Everything's kind of like that. Eventually the knife is the same, and that's especially hard to do this on. But every time you experiment with this, and I've done it for decades, I'll find that when I got stabbed the most and I got slashed the most, or I got hit the most, is when I kept trying to create distance. It's because it's counterintuitive, right? So here again, you've got this apron and that goes down these hooks, and you're meeting these hooks, right? See there, it actually got kind of caught up in there, right? So he'd go back and forth, he's throwing hooks, and I'm just covering here, I'm adjusting them. You notice, right away, if I go here, I'm snapping back here because I don't know what's going to come next. I got to be careful. I might have to open up a little bit here, right? But once I'm in here, bam, I'm in here to hit. Boom, I'm in here to go to the elbow from the chop. Back to putting the two together, which will be something to think about. You put the chopping with the elbows, like we've shown a couple times now. They flow, right? Because if this is in here already, well, that's already cocked. Just got to slip the hand back and go, right? Don't worry about that right now. Don't try to put that in yet. Just worry about this. What I'm going to have you do now is when he's throwing these hooks, and you're meeting these hooks, then you're going to do, carefully, you're going to come in from wherever you are, do this double battering ram, and then from right there, target of opportunity. There's one right there. So I take it, right? See where my other hand is? It's just already cocked. So right now, just go right there. You see how this is going to build up into a flow? Now, Dan, you see why years ago when I put you through this, I started calling it Cuisinart. Because you can see where this turns into blades and that's what it ends up being. Blades just constantly chopping you. Every time you breathe, you get hit. It's hard to fight that. Mm-hmm. And I have found this because I've done this with some guys that are way better boxers than me. I've never been a great boxer. That's not the way I think. So it's quite effective because you're bulldozing them, right? And you're not trying to come out of this to go back to boxing punches. You're striking from right here explosively. That can really cut that game out very quickly because your shots are you're generating your power in very, very close, and you're going to vital points. You're not slugging the head with a big marshmallow on your hand. So it's all very different thing, right? Different purpose. First thing we're going to do is this one here, which would be, a guy throws a haymaker. Let's say he throws a haymaker. Right there. I'm just chopping, coming right in and blasting them right between the eyes. So this is just going to represent coming in here. See, and it could be you're coming in from way out here, so you can even wind up on this. Doesn't sound like much, does it? So the nice thing about focus mitts are you work your focus. If I keep my line right here in line with this, it gives me more resistance, more like his head and his body would, right? But if I'm stepping in here, that's what I want. See how I moved him? And that's the feel you want. Let it cut through. I mean, just like it was a sword in your hand and you went lined up right here, you're going to get that effect on. That's why these are great feedback. You know, if how focused am I getting? Because that's what you want. You want that focus. When you see a strike in a hand position that exists across many cultures, going back a lot of years, and they still use it and teach it, means it's been used in combat forever. When that many cultures agree on something, that tells you it's effective. That really tells you effective. It's something that really, really works. And if you don't believe it, what you can do with your training partner out of class, I'll show it, but I won't do it to him. The softer version that they came up with, that I think they might still teach us at the police academy, was to make sure you don't focus the blow so much and worry about messing up the guy's neck so easily. And I showed this earlier, it's called the brachial thump. You use a big, massive, soft tissue so it's less focused. But even going here, see where it wants to take him down? We'll get into that a little bit later, but even just that thump with that big mass, we knocked each other out easily. I mean, you're out. So you can imagine, you go to the full combat mode version of this, it's focusing that blow so much. Do you guys understand what the brachial plexus is? Does it make sense? Okay. Okay, so think of the wiring in your house. You got it like a junction box like this, right? So a plexus is where a whole bunch of nerves come together. And there's a plexus right here on each side of the neck. So in essence, you can think of it as you just smashed that junction box. So there's nerves going everywhere, right? Well, the effect of smashing that junction box is you just short-circuited everything. You just shut him off. But here again, the dangerous thing about hitting with these chops is it has so much focus force in it. I mean, look how close it is to your spine. We were just having a conversation like, why is it so easy to chop off a head with a good sharp sword? Well, most of it's being supported by the spine there. So that's, that's extremely vulnerable. So that's, I say, it better be really serious stuff if you start chopping people in the neck or something. This better be something where you're getting your ass kicked, or you can feel that you're about to, and oh, I got to end this, man. I can't go toe to toe with this guy. Guy might be too young, too strong, too athletic, and your body tells you you have to hurt this guy. There's just no other way you're going to get out of this, and you got to trust your gut on that. But otherwise, if you see that you can get inside on the guy and control him better, then, if for no other purpose, try to mitigate and reduce potential legal consequences as much as possible. So then you can connect that to being more ethical and more moral, like is taught in Systema a lot about why they do things in a certain way. They're trying to control themselves and the other person and minimize damage, which is great. That's being a martial artist, really, that level. But in the meantime, when you're not there yet, you're not at that level, and you still have to survive. You might be a cop, you might be military, you work with very violent people in a hospital. I went through that years ago. And you got to have stuff that, if it comes down to it, what can I use now? Now, I mentioned this to these guys too. If you have a heavy bag, or you have a bob, one of those bob dummies, it's like a torso, which is great because it has all the angles of the head and it, torso and stuff. A lot of what you need to really get this down and maintain it, you can do with an inanimate object to a large degree. The timing part's not there, but we do enough work on entry and timing anyway that you have that already anyhow. But as far as really refining these blows and the angles and the power, this is something you can get almost everything you need in that regard, just even working on the bob dummy's ideal, but even on a heavy bag can work to a large degree. That's what's nice about this, stuff that you can maintain. But if you don't maintain it, you're probably going to hurt yourself doing it. You know, that's like with anything, right? But if you want to maintain your kind of your commando self-defense stuff, this plus the way we do the elbow work that fits in, right? You got to work it. One of the ways I did that for a lot of years, and I still do it occasionally, but I don't have heavy bags anymore, so I do it at gyms or wherever I'm at. But you incorporate that into part of your workout. Just make it 10 minutes of your workout. Coming in, pow, 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 hitting all these precision targets, right? Pow, 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 and flowing with it, like we're going to do here in a little bit. Just do that and understand your follow through and your form, and you can maintain that pretty easily. You don't have to spend tons of hours. That's stuff that you know you can keep functional, right? Where you don't have to work on it hours and hours and hours every week. Maybe 1 hour in a week and consistently. Really refine that. Plus, that'll feed into the control and the focus that you have with everything else we do, too. That's just a good way to think about your solo training, right? What we haven't been really working so far with any kind of true power or focus yet is being in here and hitting with the knife hand inverted. So that's what we're going to work on this time. So it can be simulate, you know, guys are going to break through and you hit them because it's available. That's a lot of why you would do this. It's just available. So this here will simply represent the ribs right here, right? But I want you to be able to go right here and go. Focus it. Don't wind up. This is going to be from the inside. See, that one was really, you notice I stepped into that one? You can hear it, right? And he's whatever, punching, doing something. And I come barreling in with my A-frame and I'm right here. So this is really available, right? But for whatever reason, I want to do this. I can turn that same angle with angles and pressure to take him down. There's little ways to, I don't want to say cheat, but there's ways to modify. Come on up again. What I did that time, did you feel where the impact really was initially? That was right here. Watch. Go ahead and throw. Okay. See what's going on there? See the angles and the relationship? Let's break it down even more. When this comes in, and I just want to turn it into a takedown. Think like Sistema here. When this hits, if I let it travel in and then go down with it a little bit, look at structure, right? And then letting it slide through is what adds that downward pressure to it. This is a sneaky Pete. It's a great takedown. This, you can be doing this. You could be doing this in Sistema, and it fits perfectly.
Yeah, that worked.
When this has to happen. It's got to hit. That strike has to be there because what does that do to their head? And in essence, that does what? It brings them down on the same plane that you're moving on to follow through for the takedown. Otherwise, you're not going to pull that off very easily on a guy taller. The guy's going to give you kind of a typical street attack 1-2 where he comes in and he goes, oh, gives you those monster, not refined hooks, right? Right away. First chop's in, second chop's in, third chop's just in the middle, right? And the arm's hanging out, so I took the arm. Now I want to be nice, so I might turn that chop just into this, right? Even that's kind of nasty, right? Or I might just chop him right here. So he comes in, boom, first chop's in, right? That arm's there, so I'll chop again anyway. Now I might take the arm. See, you can always modify this stuff too. I might not want to really blast him right here and just totally mangle up his jaw, but I can drop it right here too. Little bend, hit him right here, slap him here, slap him here. You can start turning it into slaps if you're really not trying to tear the guy up. But I'll go very light this time, right? So I come in here and I go hit, 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 hit. Cuisinart. You just keep chopping. I'm not thinking so much about hitting a whole lot of precision targets in that. I might at times because I don't have much time to think. But what's happening? What's dictating more than anything where I'm, when and where I'm chopping from?
Where your hands are.
That's it. What's available, right? And that's what you want to feel. Again, he comes again. This time it's like, boom, I cut here. I cut it a second time with the second hand. This one went here. Now I'm here. Now I'm in the rib here. And the back one could be a slap or it can be a chop. It's really hard to launch punches when somebody's going, tried it. We've put on gear, done it. You can't really get anything solid in when a guy just keeps flurrying on you like that and he's in that tight, see? Here again, now, here's one of the advantages to why I like this knife hand stuff. If we were inside like that when we were boxing, see, there'd still be all these angles, right? So you throw them too. You're hitting me and I'm hitting you and we're hitting each other. There's all this stuff going on. We're trading these blows, right? Bam, we're doing all this. But as soon as I start this, go, keep it up. See how it reduces the radius? It cuts down the lines, the angles. It's a lot, you can throw them a lot tighter. And based on what we did for learning how to generate focus power in close and then doing it on the mitts, those can be some pretty hard-ass strikes. And then all of a sudden you can go, I got to drop this guy. And then all of a sudden, instead of being nice, it goes on the clavicle. It goes right on the brachial plexus. It goes on the nose. It goes on the jaw. Then all that starts coming in. And you'll do that instinctively if you feel that you have to. But just overwhelming a guy and blasting a lot of tissue with those, it's pretty it just keeps changing too quick, and you don't have much room to defend against it because that's what this allows you to do. See, this versus this is a lot more open space. When you come in tight, plus if he throws a punch on it, then the elbows are here. The elbows come in. The chops and the elbows start to mix together. And it's kind of overwhelming, and that's the idea. This is a totally different mentality than what we usually do in the other classes, as you can see. And it doesn't have to tear a guy to pieces, but it can take willpower away too, see? It just depends on what kind of control you have of yourself and what kind of control you have with the strikes. Another thing you remember, guys, about this knife hand stuff is it shouldn't be straight like this, like you see guys that don't know what they're doing. It works better if there's a little tilt. Then these fingers don't flail. Because if your own fingers can get in your way, you're trying to hit something, and it's like your fingers are blocking you from getting it right? Also, they tend to want to flail and hit the bones, the big bone in the head. So if you angle it out a little bit, you're able to focus the blow better right here. From outside range, enter with any kind of a kick you want, and then just go to hand, just go to punches off of that, right? So I'm coming in.
At that point.
And this gets hard to do, like I was telling Mike, this gets hard to do without actually hitting with force. So you got to be careful and hold back, but because it's not going to have exactly the same effect as when you go, and really, we're not doing that. We don't want you guys being screwed up for 3 days, right? But still overwhelming. Enter off the kick and then just start Cuisinarting whatever comes in next. Well, what I've had happen doing this in training when we're really going at it over the years, a lot of guys will just start grabbing you too. But if that happens, so you're in here and you're hitting, and the guy grabs you, it's like, oh, well, you use that elbow motion, half the time breaks the grip, and then you're right back in. Then the elbows start coming in because you're in elbow range. Right? Here I'm in chop range. Here I start getting elbows and hit. And it's also different too when you're really cutting loose with these, of course. You're hitting them a lot harder. And like I said, you'll naturally gravitate toward, you'll start hitting more precise targets if they're not going down. Right now I'm just hitting whatever is opportune. But if it starts like, oh shit, he's not going down, then it starts really hard blasts here and, pulling the head into the strikes and, these shots, it all just starts falling. You're never going to learn all that though if you don't spend extra time doing this with a partner. You have to really see all these weird nuances. You're just not ever going to get to all that in a class. And you don't have the same dynamics, That's how I had to learn it. I just had to, I always had somebody to train with. I mean, yeah, you had to. Class is really about learning it, and then there's training, right? You know, there's some training in class, but it just depends on what you're doing this for. Are you using this as something that helps with your fitness and it gets your stress out and it does give you some body mechanics and some skills, but are you trying to take it to a higher level as an actual martial artist? Well, then you better put in. So I remember for years, class time was maybe about like this. Well, it was usually more like maybe 6 hours a week in classes and 2 to 3 times that much outside of class. I was extreme, but we were weirdos. But like I said, what's good about having this is it's not real complex. You're not going to have all these timing relationships and different pressure changes when you don't have a partner. But as far as understanding how to get in there and be very forward pressure oriented, very aggressive, quick angle strikes, changing angles, you can do a lot of that on your own and really get where you're hitting hard, and all you need is about that much space. But here again, that's why the Bob Dummy's the best, because it's got all the right angles anatomically. You know, it's better than a bag. Bag's not horrible, but it's better. You come in, and I close when you come in. So I start hitting, right? What has to be different this time, though, is how I end it. There has to be a takedown in there somewhere, or a throw. Otherwise, everything else is the same. The person being hit, try to give more resistance too. That gets into a tricky territory because you're not hitting them with the kind of power and focus that you would hit them with for real. So it's not going to have the same effect on breaking their countering. However, one way to compensate for that would be, if I don't want to really hit him for real, but I can more like push striking, right? I can even come here, more explosive pushing, so I don't have to really injure the guy. But it still gets the effect of taking his body more offline than if I just do everything like this, right? So there you go.